This inquiry grew out of everyday school interactions that seemed small on the surface, but repeated themselves over time. By asking what lies beneath these moments, the inquiry explores how unexamined assumptions may shape teacher-student interactions, and how greater awareness can support more inclusive practice. First, introduction, professional context, inquiry focus, and purpose. I work at a girls' school within a culturally diverse context, where students come from different national, religious, and cultural backgrounds. Many of the students come from expatriate families living and working in Kuwait temporarily. During a typical school day, I often find myself dealing with situations where misunderstandings between teachers and students arise, sometimes requiring the involvement of the school counselor. Over time, these recurring situations led me to reflect more critically on the underlying assumptions influencing these interactions. I began to question whether some of these interactions are influenced not only by student behavior, but also by unexamined cultural, religious, or political assumptions held by teachers, and how this may affect students' sense of belonging and participation within the classroom. This practitioner inquiry, therefore, examines how teachers' unexamined cultural, religious, and political assumptions may shape everyday teacher-student interactions. The paper outlines the inquiry question, the practitioner inquiry approach adopted, and the proposed methods used to explore these interactions, drawing on practitioner inquiry as a reflective and context-responsive approach to professional learning, Hall and Wall, 2019. Second, identifying the inquiry focus. The focus of this practitioner inquiry emerged from my ongoing professional reflections as a school leader working within a culturally diverse environment. Across various classrooms and situations, I observed that certain types of misunderstandings between teachers and students recur frequently. While these situations were often addressed individually at the time they occurred, their recurrence prompted me to look beyond isolated incidents and consider whether broader patterns were shaping everyday interactions. From a leadership perspective, this shift in focus reflects an understanding that effective leadership is not limited to responding to problems after they arise, but involves recognizing patterns and addressing underlying conditions that contribute to recurring challenges. Leadership literature emphasizes the importance of reframing situations to transition from reactive problem-solving to more informed and preventive forms of practice. Bowman and Deal, 2017. This perspective resonated strongly with my own experience, particularly in relation to repeated interactional issues that stem from similar assumptions or interpretations. As a result, I began to focus more specifically on how unexamined cultural, religious, or political assumptions may shape teachers' interpretations of student behavior. Rather than approaching misunderstandings as isolated behavioral incidents, this inquiry concentrates on understanding how these assumptions influence everyday teacher-student interactions. By doing so, the inquiry aims to support more intentional, inclusive, and culturally responsive professional practice. This focus aligns with intercultural education perspectives that emphasize understanding learners' experiences within culturally diverse contexts, particularly where misunderstandings may arise from cultural interpretation rather than behavior alone. Grant and Portera, 2010. Third, research design and methodology. This practitioner inquiry adopts a qualitative design, as the aim of the study is to develop a deeper understanding of everyday teacher-student interactions rather than to measure predefined outcomes. The inquiry is designed to explore how teachers' unexamined cultural, religious, or political assumptions may influence their interpretations of student behavior within daily school practice. The inquiry is situated within my own professional context as a school leader, where I am positioned as both practitioner and researcher. This insider role provides access to naturally occurring professional interactions, supporting the identification of recurring patterns across various situations. At the same time, recognizing this dual role requires a reflective and reflexive approach to remain attentive to issues of positionality and bias. Hall and Wall, 2019. The research design is intentionally small-scale and exploratory, focusing on understanding practice rather than evaluating individual performance. Data will be generated through methods that capture professional perspectives and experiences, allowing teachers' interpretations and reflections to be examined in relation to everyday interactions. This design aligns with practitioner inquiry principles, which emphasize learning from practice, ethical sensitivity, and improvement-oriented inquiry rather than accountability-driven research. Hall and Wall, 2019. By adopting this design, the inquiry creates space to examine how assumptions shape interactions over time and to support reflective professional learning. The methodology, therefore, serves as a foundation for identifying areas for greater awareness and more intentional, inclusive practice. Fourth, data collection methods. To explore how teachers' unexamined cultural, religious, or political assumptions may shape everyday teacher-student interactions, this practitioner inquiry adopts a small-scale qualitative approach to data collection. The selected methods are designed to support reflective professional learning and generate insight into everyday practice, rather than measuring outcomes. Hall and Wall, 2019. Reflective field notes form a central method of data collection. These notes are recorded following everyday school interactions that involve misunderstandings between teachers and students. The focus of the notes is not only on describing events, but also on capturing contextual details, initial interpretations, and emerging questions. Over time, these reflections help identify recurring patterns and provide insight into how assumptions may influence professional responses. In addition, the inquiry draws on documented case records held by the school counselor, where ethically appropriate. These records are reviewed in anonymized form and are used to identify recurring types of situations rather than to evaluate individual students or teachers. This approach allows the inquiry to connect reflective observations with existing professional documentation, while maintaining an improvement-oriented and non-judgmental perspectives are included in an ethical and non-threatening manner. The inquiry also incorporates student voice through a digital game, such as Kahoot, which is an anonymous tool. This tool is used as a game-based activity rather than an assessment, where students are presented with short, familiar school scenarios and invited to select how they feel in response to each situation. The anonymous and playful nature of Kahoot helps reduce anxiety and encourages honest participation, allowing students to express emotional responses comfortably and without fear of identification. Using Kahoot as a reflective data collection tool supports a learner-centered approach and recognizes students as active participants in shaping school culture. Including student voice in this way contributes to a more holistic understanding of everyday interactions and aligns with ethical practitioner inquiry principles that prioritize confidentiality, emotional safety, and respect for participants. Hall and Wall, 2019. Together, these methods provide a coherent and ethically sensitive approach to data collection. By combining reflective field notes, existing professional records, and anonymous student voice, the inquiry can examine everyday interactions from multiple perspectives while remaining closely aligned with its inquiry focus. Fifth, forms of evidence and quality, condensed. In this practitioner inquiry, evidence is drawn directly from everyday school practice to support professional learning and identify recurring patterns in teacher-student interactions. Hall and Wall, 2019. Cochrane Smith and Lytle, 2009. Reflective field notes provide evidence of repeated interactional situations and evolving professional interpretations over time, supporting pattern recognition across contexts. Anonymized case records from the school counselor contribute additional contextual evidence by highlighting recurring types of situations that lead to referrals, without judging individual behavior. Professional conversations with teachers generate evidence through shared reflection on classroom interactions, revealing how assumptions may influence professional sense-making. These insights are recorded thematically to maintain ethical sensitivity. Finally, student responses collected through the anonymous Kahoot activity provide evidence of students' emotional experiences of school interactions, adding a perspective that is often absent from adult-led interpretations. Lee et al., 2017, Brookfield, N.D. The quality of evidence is supported through triangulation across multiple sources and ongoing reflexive reflection, ensuring attention to bias, positionality, and interpretation throughout the inquiry. Hall and Wall, 2019. Sixth, ethical considerations. Condensed. Ethical considerations are central to this practitioner inquiry due to its location within my own professional context and its focus on everyday school relationships. Careful attention is given to power, confidentiality, consent, and emotional safety for all participants. Hall and Wall, 2019. Participation is voluntary, and all data are collected with the participants' informed consent. Teachers' reflections are recorded thematically without attribution, and student voice is included through an anonymous, game-based Kahoot activity, which supports emotional safety and reduces anxiety. Anonymized case records from the school counselor are used only to identify patterns, not to judge individuals. This ethical stance aligns with understandings of practitioner inquiry as a form of professional agency, where educators take responsibility for examining practice, addressing inequity, and supporting more just educational environments. Cochrane Smith and Lytle, 2009. Ethical practice in this inquiry is closely connected to social justice, as creating safe, anonymous spaces for student expression supports more equitable participation and challenges practices that may silence students' emotional experiences. Ongoing reflexive reflection supports ethical integrity by maintaining awareness of bias, interpretation, and power relations. Seventh, conclusion and potential impact. This practitioner inquiry was designed to deepen my understanding of how unexamined cultural, religious, and political assumptions may shape everyday teacher-student interactions within a multicultural school context. By drawing on reflective practice, professional dialogue, existing school records, and anonymous student voice, the inquiry moves beyond isolated incidents to examine recurring patterns that influence students' emotional experiences and sense of belonging. The potential impact of this inquiry lies primarily in its contribution to professional awareness and intentional practice. By making assumptions more visible, the inquiry supports teachers in reflecting critically on how interpretations of student behavior are formed and how these interpretations may affect relationships, trust, and inclusion within the school. For me as a school leader, the inquiry provides a structured way to move from reactive responses toward more preventative and ethically informed leadership practices. Notably, the inclusion of student voice highlights the value of listening to students' emotional experiences as a form of knowledge. Creating safe and anonymous spaces for expression challenges traditional power dynamics and supports a more just and learner-centered school culture. In this sense, the inquiry aligns professional learning with broader commitments to social justice, care, and equity. While this inquiry is small in scale, it also lays the foundation for a future cycle of practitioner inquiry, where emerging insights could inform more focused questions, deeper dialogue, and sustained professional learning over time.